We're putting the band back together because we're on a mission from God. Welcome to the Sweat. Jessie and Emerson steering the ship until 7 o'clock. What's on tap tonight, young lady?
We'll put a fantasy spin on some of the NFL's top headlines. PGA Price Check is on the menu as well. Plus, All-Star Austin Meadows of the Rays joins us in studio.
He's on the couch. History being made.
Wow, talking his first full season in Tampa Bay with a fun little game of Who's It Bat sprinkled in.
Okay, but let's get started with a 14-game fantasy baseball slate. We have some decisions to make. These two are here to help. DK Live, Steve Buchanan on the left side of your screen. Gary and Thorne on the right. Need y'all to chase or fade the following bets on the DK Sportsbook, starting with the Dodgers and Rockies. Total. That's set at 14 stinking runs, combining for 10 on Monday night. However, for their 7 matchups at Coors this season, have hit for over that 14-run total. Steven, chase or fade, they do it again.
I don't know how you realistically could take the under and feel good about it. I mean, it's Tuesday, maybe it's Taco Tuesday, you're feeling a little frisky.
Oh, yeah.
But this is not something I'm looking to take here at all. Like you mentioned, the majority of these games between these two teams at Coors Field has hit the over. They just look at whatever you want to call Kyle Freeland. Like, he's a pitcher by nature, but he's not a pitcher. I mean, he throws batting practice out there. And the starts that he's made at Coors Field this season, they're averaging 5.2 runs per game just coming from Freeland alone, not even bothering with what the bullpen does after that. And then Julio Urias comes in. He's a lefty at Coors Field. That in itself is enough to not like this matchup for him. Even though the Rockies have struggled on the road, they certainly don't struggle against lefties at home this season. So you got to go with the over on this one. I know it's a massive, massive total, but we've seen these teams do it over and over again this season.
Yeah, I was going to say, Gary, and it is a massive total, but as Steve just spit off all those numbers, I mean, it seems like it'd be a little cray-cray to take the under here.
I mean, we keep throwing around words like majority, and it happens more often than not. 4 of 7. 3 of 7 times it didn't hit the over. It's one game away from the majority being on the other side of this. It's not like it's hit 7 of 7 times. I don't know. I don't like betting the over in these games. I don't like even betting these games, to be perfectly honest. This is just kind of insanity. You're talking about huge variable swings to get to 15 runs in a game. And I don't know, only one side has to underwhelm here offensively. Like, Julio Urias, since the beginning of June, has an ERA just over 1. He's been phenomenal. Sure, he'll only probably pitch 3 or 4 innings in this game, but we need a lot of innings with crooked numbers to get up to 15 runs. So I'm going to just avoid this game completely, but if you made me bet it, I would probably take the under.
All right,
sorry
guys.
about that, Steven.
Toronto at Kansas City, and you can get Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at plus 193 to have a multi-hit game. Now, he's done it in 2 of his last 3, and he's facing lefty Mike Montgomery. So chase or fade Vlad Jr. for over 1.5 hits, Garion.
I think this is an okay bet. I think if you look at Guerrero since July 19th, he's got a WOBA of 458. He's been very good the last 2 weeks. But at the same time, you could just take Lourdes Gurriel Jr. at plus 189, who's had much more success against left-handed pitching, to do the exact same thing. And he's also batting 2 spots higher in the lineup. Like, if Guerrero were batting 2nd or 3rd, I think I'd look at this differently. But 5th is not exactly a premium lineup spot when we're just talking about volume. If he only gets 4 plate appearances, this is not an easy thing to do necessarily. So I think of the 2, I'd rather just take Lourdes. But at plus 139 or 93, this is not a terrible bet for Guerrero either.
What do you want, Steve, here? Vlad Jr. for over 1.5 hits. What do you think? Chase or fade?
I'll fade this one. I mean, you look at his numbers since he's come up. I mean, he hasn't been anything that special against lefties. He has a WRC plus of just 80, which is nothing impressive by any means, a 292 WOBA. I mean, the odds aren't that great either. Plus 193. Like, I'm not even getting 2 times my bet back for taking this one here. So he's had multi-hit games in 26% of the games he's played this season. So it's not terrible by a baseball standard, but am I going to go out of my way to throw some money down and get this, meek return for something that probably won't happen to begin with? It's just not enough. I don't like these bets to begin with anyway, so this is an easy fade for me on this one.
How about the Marlins, plus 130 underdogs against the Twins at home? Minnie's going to send Jake Odorizzi, the former Ray, to the mound, who just allowed 9 runs and 10 hits, both career highs in his last start against the Yankees. He's now given up 5 or more runs in 2 of his last 4 starts. Chase or fade, the Marlins pull this one out at home, Steven.
Well, I know Julian's going to like this bet because he's like the biggest Marlins sucker there is. Like, what a trash team to be attracted to. But, I mean, look, Odorizzi's been like falling apart essentially since the end of June. You look at his game log, and he's had a tough schedule. I mean, we can't take that away from him. He's faced the Yankees, the Indians, the Oakland A's twice, the Rays, and the Royals. So this is by far the softest matchup he's had in a long time. And he's in a good ballpark. But then you look at the other side, too. We got Zach Gallen taking the mound, and you don't want to discount him. He's been legit since he's been called up. He's looked good. His overall numbers look great, especially at Marlins Park. So, just by the way Odorizzi has been pitching, like, I don't want to give credit to the Marlins offense by any means, but if we're just going by how he's looked as of late, you can't feel confident in him, even in this against this trash Marlins team. So I don't think tonight he's going to put it back together. I figure he's going to be popular just because of the team he's facing, but doesn't mean I want to play him either.
Yeah, Steve Gallen might be a rookie coming off that fantastic start against the White Sox. Garion, let me see here. Miami 4-0 in its last 4 games against right-handed starters.
Yeah, there's that, I guess. Look, I can't dispute anything Steve said. Odorizzi, I think we could have all predicted this was going to kind of fall off a cliff at some point, too, but part of this is schedule-based. He has not exactly had the easiest schedule in the world. No one's really going to knock you if the Yankees pummel you. That's what the Yankees kind of do at this point. You go back through Minnesota's last 16 games where Odorizzi's faced a sub-500 team. They're 13-3 in those 16 games. He tends to take advantage of the situations that are advantageous to him. And also, with the recent struggles, it's been left-handed bats that have been crushing him. We've seen the WOBA against him skyrocket from that handedness split. The Marlins don't have any left-handed bats. The only 2 they have on the 25-man roster are Curtis Granderson and Neil Walker. I'm not exactly terrified of those guys. If he takes care of the righties like he's been doing all season long, this shouldn't be that hard a W to pick up for Minnesota. I'd need more juice on the Marlins to take them, honestly.
All right, I'll be sure to let Julian know what both of you think.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Gary, a good pitching matchup tonight between the Astros and Indians. Justin Verlander opposing Shane Bieber. Now, Verlander's strikeout total is set at 8.5, so chase or fade, he goes over that total.
This is probably the hardest bet we're going to talk about because it's really 2 contrasting certainties. One thing we know is the Indians don't strike out. They have the lowest strikeout rate of any team in baseball in the month of July at 18%. The other thing we know is that Justin Verlander feasts off of left-handed batters in terms of strikeouts. He's striking out almost 36% of the LHBs he's faced this season, and he's going to face 7 tonight in the Indians lineup. I still think, even knowing both of those things, I'm going to side with Cleveland here. They've been very good offensively. We know Verlander struggled with the long ball a little bit. I think there's a better chance that he gets roughed up by a couple home run balls and doesn't make it into the 6th inning than there is that he completely shuts down this Indian squad, pitches into the 7th or the 8th, and racks up 9 strikeouts. Because he's going to need to pitch into the late 7th or early 8th because this Indians team just doesn't strike out. So I'll take the under here.
Steve, do you think this is also the hardest bet we're going to talk about tonight?
Yeah, from a number perspective, I mean, it's just such a tough one to take the over on 8.5. I mean, you take a look at some of the other teams that he's faced with a similar K percentage on the year against righties. I mean, look at the Angels. He's faced them twice. He had 6 and 7 in those 2 games. The Red Sox he faced, they're also very similar to the Indians. They had 6 against him. The Twins, also in that same realm, only 7 and 8. So all of those games, all 5 games, he would have hit the under if it was currently set at 8.5. So I don't feel great about the under. I mean, this is someone who can easily go out to any game, post double-digit strikeouts no matter who the team is. We've seen it multiple times. He's done it in his last 2 games, but just going by those numbers, how the Indians don't strike out on a normal basis anyways, I'll take the under here, but this is not a bet I would be going out of my way to take by any means. I think this is a tough bet. That really, it's a coin flip here. It could go either way, and I know it's a crap answer, but truly that's kind of how it feels in this spot here. So I'm going to go with the under, but you'll definitely be sweating that one out if you take it.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. You two hang tight, though. We need you for Steve when he puts up his bukes and fights Garion coming up to wrap up the show. But hang tight right now for our in-studio conversation with Austin Meadows and why he needs to listen to his wife more. After that, we will hit you with some PGA price check.
Hey, it's Brendan Glasheen, and with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Many of us are curious what else the New York Mets will do prior to Wednesday's trade deadline. Well, news surfaced Tuesday morning. Per SNY-TV MLB insider Andy Martino, general managers around the league expect the Houston Astros to land Mets starter Zach Wheeler. One rival GM told Martino, "I fully expect the Astros to get Wheeler, and if they don't, they'll pivot to Bauer." Trevor Bauer, in case you were wondering. Yep, the guy who launched the ball from the mound to the outfield. MLB Network's John Heyman reported Tuesday, though, the Indians are increasingly unlikely to deal Bauer. Either way, he would cost the Stros or any other team more because he's got a few arbitration years left. Same goes for Noah Syndergaard. Martino reports the Braves, Rays, Brewers, and Yankees were involved to varying degrees on Thor, as well as Wheeler and closer Edwin Diaz. Wheeler is the obvious cheap prize since the righty hits unrestricted free agency at the end of the season. What if, though, Syndergaard and Bauer are in fact unavailable? The price may go up for Wheeler. Houston really could use the arm, though, since it lacks end-of-the-rotation depth to make it through that stretch run, the last third of the year.
All right, it's time to give DraftKings' nightly show the sweat little all-star flavor right now. Austin Meadows of the Tampa Bay Rays, our first live MLB guest in studio on this couch. This is historic right now. Congratulations for making DraftKings history.
Thank you.
All right, so not that we've been counting, but it's been 364 days since you were sent to the Rays from the Pirates here. Things seem to be, though, working out in your favor. Just take us back. I mean, what kind of a whirlwind has this past year been for you?
It's been awesome to be a part of. I mean, last year being traded was kind of a shock to me, but I was more excited than anything to get over here with Tampa. Was able to go to Durham and win a championship with those guys down there in AAA and create some good relationships, and then finish the season off in Tampa. And I'm just extremely happy to be here. We're in a good spot right now. So big series coming up this weekend. Or not this weekend, but these next 3 days. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah,
it's trade deadline is also tomorrow in Major League Baseball. I mean, thinking back on it, do you remember like what it was like, how emotional it was like when you received like the phone call?
Yeah, I was shocked. Me and my wife had to kind of pack everything up at our apartment in Pittsburgh, and then we had to drive to Gwinnett. We had to make like a 15-hour drive down to Gwinnett that night, and then the next day. Luckily, we got rained out the next day down in AAA for Durham, so I didn't have to play the game. But
yeah, it was to catch your breath a little bit.
Yeah, catch my breath and kind of just try to enjoy it. I mean, it was very shocking at first, but once I kind of calmed down, I was more excited than anything to get over here.
So did you have any idea it was coming? Like, are you glued to social media, reading the rumors, or is it just the phone call, you find out, and you're gone?
It all happened very quickly.
Yeah.
I didn't really have any idea that it was going to happen. There's MLB trade rumors, there's Twitter and stuff like that, and I would kind of look, but there's always there's so much negative stuff out there. There's so much stuff that you don't really think you want to believe, but it was never a scenario about me and Glasnow and Shane Baz getting traded for Chris Archer, so there wasn't really much going on. I was working out in the weight room in Pittsburgh, and then next thing, I think the deadline was at like 4 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 2 or 3 o'clock, and then I saw my name up on the TV getting traded, and it was kind of unbelievable, very shocking, but it was exciting.
Yeah, you seem to be doing just fine though now. With, first All-Star nod, first time playing in the Midsummer Classic. I mean, what was that experience like for you?
It was unbelievable. Being in the same locker room as Mike Trout, Mookie Betts, JD Martinez. I mean, there's a list of guys I can go on and on. It was unbelievable to be around, just to be able to pick those guys' brains.
I was just going to ask, do you use that opportunity to maybe try to pick up some tips, or I don't know, since your MLB career is still so young, like you ask these guys, like?
Yeah. I mean, they're all great guys. I mean, they're human beings, so they're pretty easy to go up and talk to. But for me, I kind of watch what they do, how they go about their business, how they take their BP, how they do all these sorts of things on the baseball field. So being able to just be in the presence, it was pretty cool.
90 wins last year, second place right now in the AL East. Your team's being aggressive again at the trade deadline. I mean, where does this winning attitude and winning culture come from in Tampa Bay?
I think it just starts from the top. I mean, Cash, he's a great manager to play for. We enjoy being out there with him every single day. We have such a young group in our clubhouse, and we have all the talent in the world. I mean, now obviously getting Sogard as well. I mean, we have all the talent that we need to win. And we know we're up against the Red Sox and the Yankees, but we just go out there. We have that chip on our shoulder, each and every day, and we play for each other. I think that's what helps us, win games.
Yeah, and speaking of winning games, 32 wins away from Tampa Bay. I mean, second most in Major League Baseball on the road. When we had your teammate Ryan Stanek on last week, we asked him, what is it? What makes you guys so good when you're not at home? First off, he thought it was a great question. And second, he didn't really have an answer for it. But what do you say? What is it when you guys aren't at the Trop makes you so good?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean,
thank you. You can take my producer.
Good question again. Yeah, I mean, I think just being on the road, I think it just, I don't know. I mean, I think there's a difference between when we're at the Trop. When we play the Yankees or Red Sox, it seems like there's more Yankees and Red Sox. I mean, there is more Yankees and Red Sox fans at the Trop. So we're almost the away team in that sense. Yeah. So when we go on the road, I don't know. It's just a different environment, different atmosphere, and so I don't know. We just tend to win games. We put runs on the board early on the road. It seems like. So I don't know. There's not really a good answer for you, but. I mean, we're winning games is the most important thing, and we've been doing that on the road. So
yeah, and for you personally, I mean, you played in 59 games in the majors last season between Pittsburgh and Tampa, so 287. You were hitting 6 dingers. What was your welcome to the majors moment? Did you have one?
Welcome to the majors moment. Yeah, I mean, I think, starting out with, my debut, and this was in Pittsburgh. I mean, my debut, I had my whole family there. I think I had 15 people there. I was able to get 2 hits that night, and then the next, I think 2 days after that, I was able to hit up my first home run. That was kind of okay, this is cool, and I should hopefully be here for a while. So being able to have that early on success was definitely relieving.
And when did you finally feel comfortable? I mean, maybe that first home run, on May 20th of last year.
Yeah. I think I kind of started to settle in once I went on that stretch, in Pittsburgh. When I ended up receiving the Rookie of the Month award, I think I was only up for a couple weeks, but I was able to win the Rookie of the Month. And then that's when winning that award, I think, just kind of helped me feel comfortable and kind of helped me settle in, and then continue success from there.
All right, well, take us in the Rays clubhouse now. Let's dish out some team superlatives, starting with best nickname. Who's got the best nickname in the clubhouse?
Best nickname. Oh gosh. There's a lot of nicknames.
And we'll be seeing them a lot on the back of jerseys coming up here.
Yeah. I'd say Charlie Morton. We call him Chuck.
Okay. I know you've
Chuck Nasty.
Oh, Chuck Nasty. That's not bad. I know you also said they have a bunch for you as well.
They have a bunch for me, yes.
Yeah.
They're okay.
They're okay?
They're not like Chuck Nasty.
Yeah, Chuck Nasty's pretty good. Most superstitious?
Oh, man, I might say me.
Really?
We're all superstitious.
Yeah.
I'm not the type of guy that
you got to do the same, or are you eating the same thing every day? You putting the socks on, left foot first, right foot first?
Not.
What makes you so superstitious?
I think if you're going on a roll, if you're hitting good, you're hitting good. You don't want to change anything up. You don't want to change up what you eat for breakfast. You don't want to change up anything really. Yeah. You want to stay consistent as you can. But I'm not crazy superstitious when it comes to that stuff. But I know that there's some certain guys that could be. I think I saw Mike Zunino the other day. He came out with no batting gloves. And then ended up with batting gloves and next at bat, and then they were off the next at bat. So it's one of those things. It's and then somebody else on another team, I don't remember who it was, shaved his mustache before his next at bat.
Okay.
So there's a lot of superstition out there. Right? Yeah, for sure.
Worst dresser, not best. Worst.
Oh, man, you put me on the spot. Worst dresser.
I mean, who's just rolling in? He's got his Umbros on and flip flops, and you're what are you doing, dude? There are cameras all around.
Oh my gosh. I don't know what to say.
You could use a little bit of help in the fashion department.
Me?
You really?
Yeah.
How is that possible? You're married. My wife tells me what to wear all the time. You got to listen to your wife more, man.
I do need to listen to my wife more. Yes, I could definitely step up my game. I try.
All right, best sense of humor.
I would probably say Stanek's pretty good. Ryan Stanning's pretty good. There's a lot of clowns on the team.
Okay.
A lot of funny guys, mainly the pitchers.
All right.
But there's a lot of guys.
Do you know which one is more likely to throw a ball over the center field fence?
Oh my gosh, that was crazy. I don't know if anyone would ever do that.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if Cash would be super
I'm not sure he'd be too excited,
right? One more for you. I mean, DraftKings here, we're obviously big into fantasy sports. I mean, how much are you into fantasy sports and maybe fantasy football?
Yeah, I've done fantasy football with my friends in the past, just something to keep up with. Not really huge on it, but yeah, I mean, doing something like that is fun.
So you're a guy from the South, Atlanta, I'm from the South. We love our football and love our fantasy football.
That's it, yeah.
How big is it in the clubhouse?
It's pretty big, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
You guys have like a little league with all the guys?
Yeah, the guys are going to get together. They're starting to put together a league right now, yeah.
All right, who's the commish?
I think...
who runs the show there?
I don't know who's running the show. I know it might be Snides, the pitching coach.
Well, it's coming up. It's coming up. And salaries for week 1 were just released on DraftKings, so you can let whoever the commish is, let them know that. We're going to take a quick break, guys. We'll be back with Austin Meadows. Got a little fun game of who's at bat to play. Questions are a little more difficult.
Great.
Brace yourself. Stick with us.
The odds just are really, I love Morikawa. Don't get me wrong, but here's okay. Morikawa's 18-1. Hovland is 33-1, and Wolf is 50-1 now. It seems all out of whack, doesn't it? Shouldn't all these guys basically be the exact same odds?
Haven't the last month really proven that?
Yeah.
It does. Any week, any one of them is better than the other, and sometimes by the slightest of margins, like Wolf getting to drop that eagle and kicking Kidd out of the playoff.
Yeah,
and what a man! His golf on the 16th and 17th hole yesterday at the Barracuda. I don't know if you watched it.
I did not.
The two the hardest holes on the course. He just attacked it. 60, no one was getting to that back. He got there. On 17, he had to hit a bomb putt in the end. But you could tell by the ferocity, if that's even a word, in the swing, he was going, he was attacking it. And I don't know, so cool. Does he remind you of anybody? Because I can't figure it out. Because I can't figure out how tall he is. Because I don't think he's as tall as Justin. So like a guy that wiry but small.
Like Justin Thomas?
Yeah.
Justin Thomas is only 5'10", isn't he?
So then maybe that's it. Because I remember the first times we saw Justin, he's obviously gotten a bit bigger. I think he's
5'10", 160,
but he's just tall and very wiry, right? So maybe that would be my...
I think he's a less jacked version of Rory in terms of size.
Okay, that was the other one because Rory's tiny.
Yeah,
you
Rory's
see
not
Rory
a big dude.
hit that ball.
That's why he has to be super jacked, by the way. People don't seem to understand that.
Rory's jackedness?
The fact that he can hit the ball farther than Dustin, yeah, a lot of it's swing, but the torque that he generates is because he's super jacked, and that's what he works on. Rory 10 years ago wasn't hitting the ball quite as far as he is now. I like that, and the narrative around Rory now. Rory sucks again. He came
Rory Sundays again? Yeah. Rory Sundays? Yeah, Brooks came with the whole thing.
Rory won twice this year. He won the Players, I think people just forget how hard it is to win, especially when you're playing against all the best guys.
Oh, my God.
Rory shows up to Hamilton, and he f***ing dusts everybody.
It's so hard to win. That's why, when you don't play an each way, or even still, that's why, the second places, from a betting standpoint.
I have 6 second places this year, and a lot of them at big odds. That's the difference in my... I started this year out so hot. I had 2 winners in the swing. I had 2 winners in the first 4 tournaments. And then I've just been basically a cold fish the rest of the year. I hit and I think that might be it. A couple of each ways near the top. But the second place finishes on these guys in the 33 range have just flipped 3 of them my way, and I'm having a great year.
In the words of Faraday, could have gone in for the same price. Mm-hmm. The second place is because it is so hard to win. And I feel like coming in second when you're trying to pick the winner of 150 guys is literally infinitely just about as hard as picking the guy who wins.
Rolling into the finish line of the regular season in golf, let's bring in our golf gurus, Jeff Arkin and Reed Fowler. Yeah, gorgeous golf gurus. Sorry, wearing matching outfits. To play some PGA price check on salaries for the Wyndham Championship.
Why did you say it like that?
Wyndham.
Anyway, Jeff, let's start with the pricey dudes. Ooh. And I'm talking guys in the $10K plus range, making it rain. Who do you like?
Wyndham Championship, Emerson.
This is when we should have talked like this when we had open week here.
The Wyndham, darling. Continue.
Okay, yeah, top of the chart here. Here's Webb Simpson, Matsuyama, Spieth, Morikawa, Snedeker. I mean, I got to make a case for Webb Simpson here. I hate paying over 11,000 for Webb Simpson. It just seems a little bit ludicrous. Also, doesn't seem like it ever works out when Webb Simpson is like over 9K in price. But look, I mean, he just about chased down Brooks Koepka last week. His record at this event is beyond immaculate. I mean, he won here in 2011. Named his kid after the event. I always bring that up every year, but it's just consistent year after year, and it's the kind of venue you want for Webb Simpson. Iron play, putting, that's what it comes down to, and he's doing both so good right now, top 20 in approaches and strokes gained putting. I would just pay up for Webb Simpson here, so I would definitely go up there if you're looking for the cheaper play. I don't hate going to Brandt Snedeker, who just really had a cold putter last week, or it would have been a lot higher. He loves this course too, but it's got to be Simpson out of this range.
Finished runner-up here last year as well. Reed, where are you going in this group of guys who are going to cost you at least $10K?
Yeah, it looks like Jeff's going with the old guys. I like it. I like it this week. No, I'm going with a guy who was in the top 10 last year in ranking or close to it, is Hideki Matsuyama. He's a second-price guy, and I get it, man. He's burned a lot of people over the last couple of weeks to the tune of about 20% at the Open Championship, and then last week, who rostered him in GPPs, and he just hasn't returned value. He didn't gain through approach last week for the first time in a long time. But Jeff mentioned it. This is a strokes gained approach. This is an iron play maven. Like, you need to have your irons firing. That is Hideki Matsuyama. He's so close. He's been so close. And if you take his finishes outside of the last two events, he's finished elite. He has that at top 10, top 15, what have you. He seems to always finish around that place. But again, this tournament, even though it's stronger than usual this year, getting Hideki at 12%, even though he's a 30th ranked golfer in the world, he's been playing some of the best golf. He just needs to put it all together. Bermuda greens do scare me with Hideki, so I will say that. But out of this top range, if I can get 12%, 13% for Hideki, I'm all over that.
Yeah, Reed, we talked about it in our fan share video, which everyone can see on the DK Live Twitter page or Twitter account tomorrow. He had, a top T3, right? And 2 top 15s and 5 starts here. I like where your head's at, Reed.
Oh, thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
I just wanted to add that.
Thank you, Emerson. All right, what about guys just a step below in the 9K range? Reed, which of these guys stand out to you as a good play here?
Yeah, it was the rookie last year in Joaquin Niemann that took us all by storm. In his 8th start, he got his PGA Tour card, and 4 weeks later, he finished with a 33 or a top 33 or top 35, however you want to say it, at this course last year. And really, he's had some trouble early on this season, but he seemed to right the ship. And coming into this, he has great form, strokes gained approach, par 5 scoring, everything that we talked about yesterday and previously on what the key stats and the metrics are here. Joaquin Niemann is right at that price tag. Like, he's going to be highly owned. Him and Hovland are both looking at being the highest owned guys, if not in this tournament, in this price range. But man, when 90% of the Eagles come on the 2 par 5s, a guy like Niemann, who is top 10 in that category, can go really low. So give me him, even though the ownership's going to be 20+%.
Jeff, a guy in the 9K range that you like here, who's it going to be for you?
Yeah, I guess Reed's right. I am going with the old guys because I look at Paul Casey at under 10K this week, and I just feel like people are just down on him because he's had 2 slow starts, and he really should be when you look at everything considered and what they've done this season and even over the past year. He should be the 3rd-ranked golfer in this field. He should be more expensive than Jordan Spieth. Look, he's won twice on Bermuda greens at the Valspar, similar tight course to this. He was 3rd here back in 2015. He was great at the Travelers like a month ago. So what? He's had a couple crappy starts. Those were against really strong fields too. He's kind of always sucked at the Open Championship, so that doesn't even register. He was actually okay coming on at the end of last week. I mean, he started the tournament with 2 double bogeys, so to finish where he did, it's really not that bad. I think you're getting a discount on Paul Casey. Reed mentioned the ownership on guys like Hovland and Niemann. I don't think anyone's going to play Paul Casey this week, and I think it's a mistake. This is the kind of fields where he's really excelled and just racked up top 10s, top 5s over his career. Maybe he doesn't win, but man, I can see him bouncing back in a big way this week, so I like Casey out of this range.
Jeff, talk to me about the group of guys you can get for about 8K here. Looking at Howell III, Noren, Glover, Keimer, Hadwin, Piercy, Kokrak, M on.
I like this range. It's about 4 guys that I'm really sort of heavily targeting. But the main one for me is Martin Keimer this week. Played the Wyndham Championship twice a couple times. He's got rounds of 63 and 64 here. Like, he's gone low here in the past. He's only got a couple starts at this venue, but he's definitely shown that he can take care of it. I mean, he's got a win on Bermuda grass at the Players back in 2014. Obviously hasn't won since 2014, but we've seen his form over the last couple months. He's been building, and that's the biggest thing to me. Definitely wasn't poor last week at the Barracuda Championship, was fine, strokes gained off the tee. I think this is the type of event where he could just come in and run the table. So I definitely like Martin Keimer. Other guys I'll throw out, Noren and Ben On for GPPs, and Lucas Glover, I think, some very solid cash game play. But Martin Keimer, the number 1 for me, for sure, from this range.
Okay, Jeff, you got really close to starting to name everyone in that group.
So
Reed, would you like to pick one and stick with him?
Yeah, I mean, Jeff is true to brand. You got to give it to Jeff. He stays on brand for the most part. But my guy is Jason Kokrak, and if you just look at his recent results, they have been getting a little bit better. And he's hit a stretch where he just didn't play well. He wasn't gaining through approach. He's averaging and Jeff mentioned it, since the Valspar where Paul Casey won, it was really in Kokrak's hands, and he just couldn't get up and down. And that's what scares me here, is that he's been losing strokes around the greens for like the last 10 or so tournaments. That does scare me. So if he has to and he starts missing these greens, that scares me a little bit. But in the same vein with Paul Casey, I think we're a little bit off on Kokrak because of those finishes. But if you look at his last 8, he's averaged a finishing position of about inside the top 30, and his irons have been hot. He's gaining 4 strokes for the last 2 tournaments. And that's someone that if you look at that lower 7K range, or excuse me, the 8K range, he is someone that I'm really looking at getting away from that potential ownership with the other guys, and just relying on his irons is really something I'm looking at with Kokrak. So he'd be my guy.
Alrighty, Golf Gurus, excellent work as always, but we need you to stick around because we're going to switch gears, get you guys to talk about football with us coming up next.
Tyler Sullivan here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. The Dallas Cowboys are adding some depth to their backfield, and it's with a familiar face as Alfred Morris has agreed to a 1-year deal with the club. Morris was reportedly set to visit with the New Orleans Saints, but seemingly has decided to head back to the place where he spent the 2016 and 2017 seasons. During his first stint with Dallas, he rushed for 790 yards and 3 touchdowns over 28 regular season games. With the 49ers last year, the 2-time Pro Bowler did play well, totaling 501 yards from scrimmage and 2 touchdowns. What adds a little extra spice to this signing, however, is the fact that Dallas' star running back Ezekiel Elliott remains away from the club as he's holding out for a new contract. Zeke is reportedly in Cabo training for the upcoming seasons as these negotiations go on, but will have to report to camp by August 6th for him to have an accrued season and count towards free agency. The addition of Morris does give Dallas some leverage as they have a guy familiar with their system, so they could, in theory, take Zeke all the way up to that August 6th deadline.
As promised, it's time to talk football. Say hello to DK Live's Jeff Ulrich, Reed Fowler, Andy McNamara, and Ryan Noonan of the Quad Edge, which means we got the Quad Box. All right, we've gathered you all here today for NFL Spin Move, putting a fantasy spin on the latest NFL headlines.
Yes, you just heard Tyler's Fantasy Flash on Alfred Morris. We'll get to him in just a moment. But moments ago, news coming down that following ankle surgery today, Bengals wide receiver A.J. Green expected to miss multiple games, originally thought to be just one. Reed, let's start with you. What's this do not only for his draft stock here, but how about Tyler Boyd's?
Yeah, I mean, he was going in the 3rd round in most of these drafts, and everyone was optimistic that he was coming off that toe injury pretty healthy, right? So obviously that ADP is going to go down. I mean, if you can scoop him up, and he's still going to be drafted, obviously, right? Because the reports are coming out that he's going to be potentially ready for the second half of the season or close to it. So he's going to get scooped up at some point. For me personally, that 8th round or 7th round maybe is someone that I'm looking at AJ Green, because you can obviously get guys in the first 4 to 5 weeks that you can fill that roster with. But he's starting to be in that conversation of a guy who's getting these lower extremity injuries. And Tyler Boyd, who's going in the 6th round, will obviously get a bump up at ADP. And I don't necessarily know, and I do like Tyler Boyd this season, and I do like him in that first week for DraftKings purposes, but getting him in that early and just putting him in that number 1 spot, even though he runs a quarter of his routes, or he did last year out of the slot, that scares me a little bit, because we've seen that in that workload, the target share goes down about a target and a half. The receptions go down in that same category. And we just don't know if he can support that wide receiver 1 in this new offense. It does give an uptick to Mixon, but I would temper expectations on Boyd going that early as your wide receiver 2 or 3 in your team.
Jeff, when do you take a chance on AJ Green?
Oh boy, I mean, it's really risk reward, I guess you're talking about. I mean, are you going to draft him before Tyler Boyd now? No, it's kind of impossible to. So, it just comes down to like, how did your rest of your draft go? If you really like your first 5 or 6 spots, I guess you can start thinking about him then as like I said, a boomer bust play. I think the proper play here might just be to start crossing Bengals off your list. The more I look at this depth chart, especially at wide receiver without John Ross and AJ Green, it seems like a dumpster fire. It seems like the Bengals are just headed towards a really bad season, and drafting these guys might not be that prosperous. Reed mentioned Tyler Boyd too. I mean, he's going to get a bump up in ADP. So he only in 6 games without AJ Green last year, he got 4 less passes. So I'm not even sure if it helps Boyd that much. He's probably getting too hot. If Green starts to fall, obviously it's in the 7th or 8th round, you start to take a look at him, but not before then for me.
Nooner, you just heard what Jeff mentioned. What's your approach to these two guys? Because, yes, Boyd was not nearly as productive when AJ Green was not on the field.
Yeah, first I want to say that I love the new sets. I figured
Thank
this is
you.
a lazy...
We designed it. We designed it ourselves, didn't
you're
we?
welcome.
Lazy way. If you wouldn't have skipped legs day so much, they would have been able to let you stand up longer.
Hey,
Yeah.
whoa, easy there, buddy.
His
you should have seen
legs
my...
are frail, dude.
Okay,
They
all
are
right.
fragile.
I'm not going to go off on this. Just answer the question, Nooner.
They're like little
I love
toothpicks.
you and I miss you. No, I agree with what both the guys said so far. I mean, you can't not draft AJ Green, but at this point, like Reed was saying, the lower body injury is just going to lead to more lower body injuries. It just is, the biggest indicator of future injury is past injury. So obviously the upside is huge. It's more related to now if you're doing best balls, he's obviously going to slip. We'll have more information as, most season long stuff gets kicked off here in a month or so. But I don't know that I would do much as far as Tyler Boyd. I would kind of leave him where he's at. But we kind of want to see how AJ Green is progressing here over the next couple of weeks. But it is worrisome. I was a little bullish on the offense. Zach Taylor coming over from the Rams could have some, a little bit more exciting offense there and some weapons that could have supported that, but they can't stay healthy. It's going to be tough to do that.
Andy, would you draft Boyd before Green now?
Absolutely, guys. Absolutely. And sorry about the plain set. I'm in the back of
Boring.
Nice and gray. Just like the Bengals wide receiver group. Nice and gray. Nothing interesting going on here. I would absolutely draft Tyler Boyd before. And I agree with the guys in that when he's the main target, just like we see, right? Sometimes players, wide receivers are better as a secondary target because they don't face the best defenders. When Boyd has to, his production dipped a little bit. Went for over 1,000 yards last year. But I think you have to go with availability. The best ability is availability. Tyler Boyd's going to be available. AJ Green isn't. And what if he rushes back? What if he gets another tear or pull or something? And that's where I get concerned. Sure, if AJ Green's later in your draft, late round as a flyer, as a bench guy, why the hell not? But otherwise, if you're going to pick one of them, you got to go Boyd.
All right, guys. Well, the Cowboys have signed Alfred Morris. Now, Morris was previously with the Cowboys back in 2016 and 2017. Jeff, with Zeke's status still in limbo from his holdout,
He's in Mexico right now.
Just to get a little leverage on him, or could Morris actually carve out a role for himself in Dallas this season?
I'll get this Mexico thing. Like, does he think that if he goes to Mexico, it's more official or something? I don't know.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
He's like,
dude, it's nice weather, man.
Cash
you got
me
a beach?
outside. How about that?
Look, I went back and looked and tried to get a grasp of what happened in 2017 when the Cowboys went through this no Zeke period, and it's pretty ugly. I mean, Alfred Morris caught 6 passes in 7 games without Zeke. Like, there's no pass catch, there's no PPR upside here. He had one game where he got like 27 carries. Hypothetically, if Elliott sits out, I mean, Alfred Morris will probably have a role, but I just can't see the Cowboys not signing someone else. They have Darius Jackson, who is really, to me, the only other viable name on their roster right now. And he's actually got some interesting metrics, kind of bounced around the league, but he does project as someone who could perhaps like be that spark guy to Alfred Morris's grinder role. But like Alfred Morris, even if he were to get the lead role, it really wouldn't interest me that much. I mean, there's just no PPR upside. Like I said, there's probably a chance of someone else coming in. So I guess it's just a ploy. I just cannot see the Cowboys starting season without Zeke. I just can't see how they're going to go down that path again.
Reed, do you think Zeke is just laughing on a beach in Mexico at this signing?
Yeah, I mean, he says he's working out, and I think it's Cancun. There's no way that's entirely true. It's Zeke Elliott. Look, Jeff mentioned it. There's no way the Cowboys can really have a viable future, successful future, without Zeke Elliott. I mean, the reports come out that the Cowboys are a multi-billion-dollar company. I mean, or entity. And so I know it's not just apples to apples where you just have that much money when you pay the guy, but he is this offense. We saw it from last year to this, or from previous year, and in 2017, how much his target share increased, and then the success of this team with both Amari Cooper, Dak Prescott being a top 10 quarterback in fantasy purposes, and then Zeke being one of the best offensive threats in the game. And if I'm going to pick anyone, it's not necessarily Alfred Morris. He doesn't really catch the ball out of the backfield. He sees a gap and he runs through it. It's Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard in later drafts or later rounds in the draft is a rookie that they drafted in the 4th round, which is not extremely high capital, but someone that could easily be put into that position where he runs the ball well, he catches out of the backfield. You saw that at Memphis. I think he's someone that I'm looking at if Zeke eventually holds out as someone that's going to get all of those passing and then, especially in PPR leagues, all those points.
Andy, where do you sit on this one?
Well, I was a lot more excited the first time around, Alfred Morris 2016. I would have been more excited then. But now, yeah, and I'm with Reed on Tony Pollard. Yes, I love this guy coming out of the combine. He can be a scat back. You can throw gimmick plays in. He can catch. You can run. You can even pop him on special teams. So I think if we're looking, he's not a Zeke, right? You're going to go much more committee-based, obviously, Mike Weber as well. But that's the guy to kind of put that little star beside to keep an eye on. But Alfred Morris, I think it's more of a camp body, right? You need running back bodies. You don't want to wear everybody out. You bring Alfred Morris in, and then, you got another body. If Zeke is out, it's going to be a disaster running back by committee, and the Dallas Cowboys are going to be fantasy irrelevant in the backfield.
Ryan, where do you sit on this signing?
Yeah, I don't feel like there's any reason to think that Zeke's not going to come back. I think he's just chilling and enjoying himself, drinking some pina coladas and stuff. But I'm with the fellas. Tony Pollard is totally the answer. Reed mentioned 4th round. In terms of what they need and what they have with Zeke, 4th round is a pretty strong draft capital investment in a back like this. He shared the load with Darrell Henderson in Memphis. Player profile has his metrics kind of similar to Kenyon Drake, and I think that fits pretty well too. The ability to carry the ball, but he also is a weapon in the passing game. I think Andy kind of nailed it. If we didn't have Zeke and something happened, they can't lock this up. It would be a committee situation. I don't know how involved Alfred Morris is in that. I don't know that I want to go out of my way to get him now, but Tony Pollard is the guy to watch.
All right, Andrew Luck is still dealing with a calf injury here, guys. Will not participate in the Colts' next 2 practices or the first game of the preseason, or maybe he's not going to play in the preseason at all. We're still trying to figure that out. Head coach Frank Reich saying Luck was not ready to take the next step. He's been dealing with this injury now for 3 months. Feels like he's always dealing with some kind of lingering injury. Are you proceeding with caution when thinking about drafting Luck for season-long leagues? Reed, let's start with you. Gentlemen, need you to be a little quicker on this one.
I'm not. I never draft quarterbacks early. He's the second one off the board. It hurts everyone else. It hurts Hilton especially. I mean, when we saw Brissett in, it was 4 less points per game as opposed to when Luck was in 2018 as opposed to 2017. That scares me. I would bump those guys down.
Okay, Andy, what do you think here? Last thing fantasy managers want is an average quarterback, right?
Yeah, for sure. If it was his shoulder, much more concerned. Calf, they're just being extra cautious. I don't see it really being a problem. But as Reed said, you want to track this because if he does miss any significant time, the surrounding pieces take a hit.
Ryan, how much are you downgrading Andrew Luck with this injury?
Not much. Reed nailed it too. I mean, you wait on quarterback anyway. Frank Reich said today that if it wasn't July and there was a game, he'd be able to play. So you wait on QB, you take Kyler Murray, Jameis Winston later, and pass on Andrew Luck.
All right, Jeffrey, what's your approach here with Andrew Luck?
Honestly, I had Andrew Luck ranked lower than probably like 99% of people. I mean, I'd much rather take Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, a couple other guys, Jared Goff even probably over Andrew Luck, and especially at his current valuation, which is, like Reed said, some people have him ranked as high as second QB. So this just downgrades him further for me. I honestly have zero interest in him this year.
Yeah, I mean, they built that deep, versatile roster. That all just goes down the drain without this guy.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it plays out.
All right, good stuff, gang. Plenty more to come, including Put Up Your Bukes and a rousing game of Who's at Bat with Austin Meadows.
But first, let's toss it over to the Pat Mayo Experience.
I don't really know what to do with Todd Gurley whatsoever. Part of it is I don't quite understand what this like knee arthritis that he has in, how severe that is, or how the Rams are actually going to play this. The fact they traded up for a running back in the draft would lead me to believe maybe they scale back his workload a little bit, but that's not been the case with Gurley so far. So what do you know about his knee injury? Maybe is it something that they will lighten his load? Is it something he could re-aggravate? Will it cause him 20% less burst, which is very substantial for an NFL running back?
Yes, and yes.
Ooh.
So what do we know about Todd Gurley's knee? First of all, he's got to have pretty bad arthritis in there if he's already dealing with symptoms at 24, 25. He had an ACL a couple of years ago, and when you tear your ACL, there's about 60 to 70% chance you also tear something called the meniscus. The meniscus is essentially thick cartilage in between the upper and lower leg bone that is kind of like the shocks for your knee or for your car, if you think of it that way. If you tear this, it doesn't heal well in general. If you have a large tear, which can happen with an ACL tear, they will probably remove some of it, or they'll try to suture it, which usually we don't do. But if you're going to make someone immobile for 3-4 months, then you can get away with it. The issue is he's got a lot of wear and tear on his knees. A lot of people don't realize he was a track star. He had a lot of miles in college on his knee. So unfortunately, if you think about it, his knees are probably like someone who's been, a regular runner into their 50s. Like, he's got a lot of wear and tear in a short period of time, and his knees just can't handle it. Up until, late last season, he was fine. But then he must have tweaked it. He started getting accumulation of fluid, which is uncomfortable and can be drained. But the arthritis is the underlying cause. And unfortunately, that is not easily treated, at least not at this age. Yes, you can put a cortisone injection in there. Yes, you can put stem cell or what we call PRP in there, and that will help. But the issue with him is if his arthritis is as bad as they say it is, if he was one of my 50 or 60-year-old patients, I'd give him something called a gel injection, which would help, and maybe he's got that. But I don't expect it to handle the workload that he's asking of it. Ideally, if it's that bad, he'd need a knee replacement. You're not getting a knee replacement at 20-something. So you decrease your volume, you decrease your weight, which indirectly helps, and you do everything you can to take stress off that knee and do what you can. The problem is the Rams are stuck. They paid him a ton of money, so they have to play him pretty much. They have all the resources they can do, but there's only so much medicine we have to fix a knee that you're not able to function on to the level that he's asking it. So that's why they probably drafted someone so high and spent so much draft capital on Henderson because of that, because they just don't know what they're going to get out of Gurley. So he's not going to be the same guy that you're used to, or at least not at the same volume, which is what you need to him to be the pick where you're drafting him.
So obviously we're going to cross him off the first round. I have him in the middle of the third round is when I'd start to consider him. Is that where you would consider him in a draft, or is that still a bit too high?
Personally, I'm not going to draft Gurley this year, only because I think there's guys you can get around the same range that have a higher upside and have less risk.
All right, back here on The Sweat with Austin Meadows of the Tampa Bay Rays, an all-star. It's time to play a game we like to call Who's at Bat. So this is when we're going to show you some silhouettes of players' batting stances. You're going to guess who it is. Now, Stanek nailed like 3 of 5. He's batting 600. Oof. I know. We're going to see if you can match that or beat that. Although these are totally different silhouettes than we showed him. I think these might be a little more difficult.
Got it.
But first one, let's punch it up for him. All right, like you, dude started his career in Pittsburgh.
Massive elbow guard.
Yeah, doubled in size over his career.
Oh, that's Barry.
Yeah, nailed it. Yeah, takes pictures to Tatertown quite a bit. All right, number 2. Really hates Steve Bartman. Knees are basically touching here, but feet are like 2 yards apart. Kind of very duck-like stance.
What year is this?
What year is this?
Can you give me a hint?
Yeah, I mean, let's see if I can go back to the Steve Bertman. That was like 2003, Game 6, NLCS.
Oh, man, I don't know who that is.
Are you sure? And it's Moises Alou.
Yeah, that would not have happened.
Yeah, it's okay. Hey.
I was going to say Ryan Braun, but
you're
that doesn't
batting
really.
500. That's okay. Up next, current player.
Oh, that's easy.
Batting
You know he's from my hometown, right? Matt Olson.
I did not know that.
We grew up together.
But now I know. How's y'all still have a good friendship?
Yeah, we're good.
Still good relationship?
Yeah. No, we started playing with each other when we were very, very young.
Okay.
We always played against each other in high school, high school
in there
rivals.
for you. High school rivals, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Who has the bragging rights still?
He does.
He does?
Yes,
Okay, sorry. I
definitely.
didn't mean to bring that up. Let's go fourth one. Current player for the Rangers. Extremely open stance here.
He's hurt right now. Joey Gallo.
Yep. Very good.
Thanks.
3 for 4 right now.
I like
Incredible. Finally.
More current guys. You're helping me out.
Finally, here we go. Baseball Hall of Famer, so not current. Kind of starts with a signature bat point, has a goofy stance before he hits. Let's see. He says former Phillies manager Charlie Manuel helped him come up with it when they were both in the minors. So obviously a former Philly. Played for a bunch of teams.
Oh, man. Let's start with a J.
It does start with a J.
Jim Tomey?
Yes. Wow. 800 batting average. Great job.
Thank you.
Austin Meadows, man. Good to have you here.
Thanks for having me. I
good
enjoyed
luck
it.
Against the Red Sox.
Thank
Big 3-game series for you guys.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Tyler Sullivan here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. The battle for QB1 in Miami appears to have a front runner. Dolphins head coach Brian Flores told reporters on Tuesday that, quote, "It's pretty clear to me that Ryan Fitzpatrick is leading the way," unquote. Of course, Fitzmagic, who signed a 2-year deal at the start of free agency, is duking it out with second-year quarterback Josh Rosen, who was acquired by Miami back at the NFL draft in a deal with the Cardinals. The 2018 first-round pick in Rosen provides more upside long-term with the Dolphins, but if Brian Flores is in a win-now mindset as he begins his tenure in Miami, putting the veteran Fitzpatrick under center for Week 1 does seem like the smart play. In 8 games for the Buccaneers last year, Fitzpatrick was able to complete 66.7% of his passes for 2,366 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 12 picks. While Fitzpatrick may have the lead now, it should be stated that it's still very early in the summer, and Rosen will likely have plenty of opportunity to state his case over the course of this preseason.
No better way to close this show than with these two.
Nope.
Welcome back to DK Live, Steve Buchanan and Gary and Thorne. Gentlemen, time to throw down or put up your bukes. You know the drill. Steve gives his top 3 picks along with DK point projections, and Garion will weigh in on said choices.
Your first buke, please, Steven.
Yeah, so I had AJ Pollock on here, and now he's batting leadoff. So it's not like this is one that's kind of unknown to people here. But the original thought process was he's $4,500 tonight, and he's in an absolutely great matchup. So I have him for 16 DK fantasy points tonight. If you're stacking the Dodgers, he's usually around 5th or 6th in the order. So I was surprised that he was in first. I think it's only the 3rd time this season that he's been batting leadoff. But he just feels really underpriced, and this is someone that's been hurt. So we can't really take into account too much of his numbers for this season. But last year, this is somebody who had a 243 isolated power against lefties. We haven't seen so much of that power yet this season, but this just feels like way too good of a matchup to ignore him, and he's probably not going to get ignored anymore because he's going to bat first. So here's an easy layup for Gary, and so have at it.
Well, I was going to ask you if you could change your point projection here. What would you change it to now that he's batting leadoff?
Honestly, it probably would go up.
Okay.
Now that he's in the leadoff position.
That's interesting. I'm looking at his 10-game log. He's only hit over 16 once during that span.
See, that's a loser mentality there. You can't go by that.
All right, Gary, and have at it. I feel like this is an easy one for you.
I know, there's so much meat on this bone. Where do I start? Coors Field, awful offensive environment. Buke's picked, obviously, the worst hitter's ballpark in baseball. Everyone knows you want to bat towards the bottom of the order. That's where all the value lies. That's where all the sneakiness is. I mean, I don't know. Look, Steve teed it up right up the top. This is no longer any sort of surprise to anyone. As soon as the lineup came out, as soon as Muncy wasn't in there and Peterson wasn't in there, they needed someone at the top of this order, and they chose AJ Pollock. He went from being probably already a relatively popular play to, I would expect, one of the more popular plays on this slate. And it's justified. Like, Bukes was on here 45 minutes ago talking about 14 to 15 runs being a lock. Whenever that's the case, take a guy who's probably going to have 5 to 6 plate appearances in that game.
All right, let's see if there's as much meat on your second Buke, please.
Yeah, so we're going to go with Michael Conforto here with 14 DK fantasy points. Now, again, picking against Ronaldo Lopez is not something that would blow people away, but the kind of the buzz and the chatter today is that people are more interested in Lopez than they are the Mets bats. That's probably because Lopez has made 3 good starts in a row. But, this is against the Athletics, the Rays in Tampa, and the Marlins. Not exactly teams that are going to blow you away. So if I'm going to get somebody like Michael Conforto at lower than usual ownership, then I will take that any day of the week. And look, Ronaldo Lopez absolutely stinks at home against lefties at home. 371 WOBA, 6.46 xFIP, and 7 of his 24 home runs allowed. We all know Michael Conforto is a much better hitter on the road, especially against righties. So I feel like this is a great matchup. But again, if the ownership is going to be pretty low on him because people are going to be using Lopez, then by all means, give me Conforto, give me guys like Jeff McNeil, give me the lefties in this lineup here. And I feel like this is going to be a good spot for the Mets bats altogether, and maybe at low ownership.
Gary and Conforto, 14 DK fantasy points and perhaps low ownership. Do you agree on any of these?
Yeah, I mean, look, I was desperately going through Reynaldo Lopez's game logs and his pitch usages to try and find something that justified this massive shift we've seen from Lopez in his last 3 starts. And I think Steve really hit it on the head. He's just had pristine matchups. I mean, obviously, when you look at the Marlins and, you look at some of the other teams he's had the privilege of facing, none of these jump off the page anyway. But especially when you consider that Lopez's biggest weakness is left-handed bats, the Marlins, we've been over this already on this show, they don't have any left-handed bats of note. Aside from Matt Olson, the Athletics don't have any left-handed bats of note either. And when you look at the Rays, well, they do rank towards the top of the league in ISO and WOBA in left-handed batters against right-handed pitching. They haven't had Brandon Lowe. They haven't had Kevin Kiermaier when Lopez got to face them. It's just been this lucky run of scheduling for Lopez. Nothing else has changed. So the fact that lefties are 4 for their last 28 against him, I'm just not buying that. If you can get Conforto at lower ownership, considering he is in the upper half of that Mets order, this is a great play tonight.
Steve, hook me up with that third and final Buke.
Yeah, I think this is somebody I've never talked about on the Sweat since we've started the show. I don't know why I would ever talk about him, but when I was going through some plays for tonight, he kind of caught my eye, and it's Guillermo Heredia, and I have him for 10 DK fantasy points tonight. I mean, again, not somebody you would ever really consider on a nightly basis, but he's near the minimum in salary tonight. He's batting 8th, which isn't great, but this is someone we're talking about. That's $3K tonight. Over his last 5 games, he's averaging 9.4 DK fantasy points. And then when you look at his numbers against lefties on the road, they're actually pretty damn surprising. He's got a 366 WOBA, a 211 isolated power. Like, I see zero reason why you couldn't take a chance on him tonight with guys like Noah Syndergaard going, with guys like Verlander, with a lot of buzz going in Coors Field. You're trying to fit those guys in. This guy makes a lot of sense, and I think he actually can do some damage against David Price. He's been very good against the Rays so far this season, but we've kind of seen some chinks in the armor as of late for Price. And then let's not forget how poor that Red Sox bullpen is as well. So I think this makes a lot of sense tonight, and I think, again, to save the salary you can save, yeah, I'm in for it.
Makes a lot of sense to Mr. Buchanan. Does it make a lot of sense to you, Gary and Thorne?
Look, it's never ideal to roster someone batting 8th because we can see how this could go poorly. I mean, the Rays played Boston and faced off against David Price less than a week ago, and Heredia only got to the plate 3 times. Like, that's the risk in playing someone who is that far down in any given batting order. At the same time, Steve brings up the very good point of where the money is going to be going on this slate. There's a lot of high-priced pitchers in the 5 digits. There's a game at Coors with a higher implied run total, so you know people are going to want to get bats from that game as well. You've got to save money somewhere, and believe me, I went through and tried to find another player below 3.5 who was even comparable to Heredia. There's just not one there. So while I don't necessarily love this play, I think one thing working in Heredia's advantage as well is in a situation late in the game where he might usually be pinch hit for, like if a right-handed pitcher comes in to face him. With Tommy Pham being scratched from this game, the Rays don't have that long a bench tonight. They don't have a 4th or 5th outfielder to use in place of Heredias, so he's probably not going to get pinch hit for either. So this is probably the best spot you're going to find for a guy like this.
Alrighty, take us home with your slate approved pick. Who is your lock for tonight, Steve?
Love Noah Syndergaard tonight in the redemption game, kind of trying to show the Mets up, and love the Mariners stack tonight. Vastly overrated.
Gary and slate approved.
Steve and I are on the same page. I love Syndergaard's over prop for Ks too at 7.5 in the DK Sportsbook. I'd hit that.
Wow. I'd hit that too.
I would like to hit dinner right now. I'm like really hungry.
Yeah, so
especially like when you started mentioning like meat on the bone.
Okay,
like,
this is The Sweat. I'm Jessie. He's Emerson. This show will be back tomorrow at 6 p.m.
Was I supposed to read that?
Yeah, you were supposed to read that. DK Live. Be sure to download the app. You can watch us on there, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. You know the drill. We will see you tomorrow at 6. Emerson's got to go eat.
Bye.